Yeah, I will keep it down here. So thank you everyone for coming to tonight's event. We are really excited because this is actually, for those of you who don't know, Progress Partners used to hold a very large yearly event as part called Progress Connect. It was around 200 to 400 people that used to come into Boston. It was great. The last year we had it was at Gillette Stadium. And we have actually pared it down. We changed it a little bit. We changed it to this Progress Connect series. We thought this was a good way to get ourselves back into the getting together mode. And so we're excited to have you all here. I'm excited to be here. Myself, Chris, and Tim as well. We're all from Boston. We're excited to come down for this event as we all start to look forward to what might become more of these in the future. Let's go to the next slide. I actually don't have a clicker. Thank you very much. You can just whoa! Oh my God! Next slide. How did you get away with that?
No, go back.
Jesus, that's a big
facsimile.
We'll stand right there. I wore the same suit in order to keep it consistent here. So for those of you that don't know, it's great. What I found from just talking to a few of you here is a lot of you are like, how did I end up here tonight? So, I thought that I would introduce you to Progress Partners and myself. I'm Dave Erickslanian. I'm a managing director at Progress Partners. I also happen to be the co-founder with Sanjay, my partner on the SPAC, co-founder and the CEO of the SPAC. And, that just goes to show you how much Progress Partners has actually changed in the past several years. We've really grown a lot as a firm. And so just a few minutes on that, I'm joined here today, as I mentioned, Tim, Derek, Sam Thompson is somewhere out in the crowd as well. Thank you, Sam. All of us here from Progress Partners. And we've really evolved from a boutique sort of ad tech company, ad tech M&A firm, into a broad merchant bank. We have the SPAC, we have a venture arm. We're on our fourth fund, Chris, is that right?
Yeah.
Fourth fund, just finished raising that around.
Progress Ventures, 4 funds, 30 portfolio companies.
Great.
All B2B software.
All in B2B software, and that's what's so exciting. We're really excited to that. And as you'll see, I sort of took on the mantra on the fintech side of things, closing some deals with Vise and MasterCard, Volante. We'll talk about that in a second. Synobi, Techno here, Project Blue here. Since he's not in the room, I can say it's listener. So some really cool fintech companies that we've been able to be part of in the past couple of years. We're really excited about these. We're expanding our footprint. We're also moving into health tech and other verticals, auto tech. We've done a couple of deals in gaming as well. It just really expands our portfolio, so we're excited about that. Tonight we have a couple great partner sponsors, and I don't want to let that go. Justin, how are you? From Serity Partners, I'm sorry. Justin, do you want to just give just 2 seconds on Serity, and then we'll go to the next? And then we'll
Sure. Yeah. First of all, welcome everybody. Excited to be here. Serity Partners is a national investment advisory firm. We focus on working with high net worth individuals, particularly in the executives and venture space. And so really excited about our partnership with Serity Partners. We're like-minded. We do a lot of direct venture deals. We work with a lot of entrepreneurs and executives to help them through from illiquid private assets all the way through their liquidity events and beyond. And just welcome, excited to be here.
Thank you very much. Resnick as well, they've been a great partner of Progress Partners over the years. Since actually, probably, I don't know, we're going to multiple years with Resnick, right? Tim, I know Tim and Hillary, I believe, are in the crowd as well. I love saying, hey, Tim, how are you? Thank you. Tim, do you want to say anything about Resnick?
Sure.
Practice, please.
I'll be brief. Thanks for having us. I'm Tim Garland. I'm an audit partner with Resnick. I run the tech practice in the New York metro region. Resnick, we're a national firm, audit, assurance, and tax, about number 15 in the country. We have a national tech practice, specifically in this New York metro area. We focus on fintech, hence us being here, as well as, media, ad tech, and things of that nature. So, back over to you, Dave.
Thank you very much, Tim. Really appreciate it. So this evening, so first of all, this part of the dinner is for you to have some nice drinks. Enjoy while I and my panelists pontificate on the impacts of deglobalization and its impacts on cash. So I'm going to take this topic a little bit off the rails, just as I talk to a couple of my future panelists here, because I wanted to keep it fresh with today's current events in the world. I don't think that we can be deaf to what is going on in the world today. I think there's a lot. I mean, for many of you in this room, perhaps even most, the better part of the last 40 years has been spent talking about globalization. A lot of the firms we deal with, a lot of the ways we think about the world have been all about globalization. And as, I remember maybe it was a month ago, I opened up the journal, Wall Street Journal, and saw something about deglobalization. It brought me back to my Econ 101 days, right? And you sort of go back and you're like, what does that mean? Like, how do you go backwards from all this forward progress? So it's really exciting, and it's something that I do want to talk to our panelists about. So just a couple things, though. This is truly about this is a fintech group here. And I don't think we can ignore the fact that fintech is what has driven a lot of globalization, right? The breakdown of these walls, not the physical, but the proverbial walls around how money is transferred and how cash flows. And you look at I love this, is in '67 Barclays, installed an ATM. And an ATM really at that point was like, oh, I can pick my money out of a wall, right? And who would have thought that just less than 30 years from there, you'd move it into your phone, right? It was sort of inconceivable, and you can see from that to Bitcoin being released in '09, to Sotheby's, launching an NFT in 2021, how rapidly the cash or the concept of money has changed in the past decade. A couple of other things I want to mention on global payments. This is really interesting to me, because this is global payments moving across facilitators, PayPal, Stripe, Square. It's exploding. It's in the trillions of dollars. This goes almost, it probably will asymptotically approach sort of the total number of dollars in the market. For those of you, it's the value of money, or the money, the M1 curve, right? It eventually hits that, and it's really an incredible event that we all get to witness probably over the next 5 to 10 years here. What's not lost on me is that there are just a tremendous amount of there's a tremendous amount of innovation, but a lot of followers as well. And so if you look at this, like, the innovation has happened, but the number of payment facilitators continues to increase, and it's projected to increase out into 2025. Payment facilitators is one of those things that I look at and say there cannot be just an infinite number of them. There has to be just a few at the end of the day. If you look and you think about monetary policy, that's about what is the value of the dollar, what is the value of the yuan, what is the value of the ruble, what is the value of other currencies. Do you think that there can just be an infinite number? No, right? So I don't know that continues to grow that way, but it goes to show you there's still a lot of innovation to be had in payments. I think that's what that points out for me anyways. Valuation step-ups, Progress Partners, since we're an investment bank and we also have a venture firm, we certainly think about valuations. And we're seeing a lot of step-up in valuations. Klarna probably being an unusual one, an outlier compared to Toast and Stripe, which both saw significant step-ups in their valuation. And those are, so Stripe, we've had the pleasure of dealing with a couple times, they are really trying to expand their base and become a true payments facilitator across many different types. So the pandemic, and now that we're starting to maybe step out of it, maybe start it, let's hope, let's keep going from there. But how did it change? You know, how did that change payments and how we accept, how we deliver payments, how we use cash? Tremendous. Convenience stores saw an explosion in just that use of, you know, touchless payments, texting payments. I for one went from maybe occasionally using Apple Pay and a few other touchless to trying to exclusively use it now, right? I mean, even through the airport kiosks as we went through today, I made a concerted effort to think about that. And then this was a great study done on how do you think, how will consumers pay for goods by the end of 2022? I have understood that in some cases here, this concept of the e-wallet and the debit card, that basically represents over 50% of the way consumers will pay for goods and services. I know there's some folks here from MasterCard, Visa in the audience today, but that's showing it's a pretty steady state there actually for the charge cards. And then cash, where is this eating from? You gotta think about where this eats from. It eats from this cash side right over here. So that is something that I think we'll continue to see as a trend. This is all what we want to talk about for Progress Partners, because our experience in the banking space, these are some select transactions that we've just had in the banking space. We believe that this is an area that we're focused on and that we see value in. We want to invest in it, we want to transact in it, and we want to participate in the ultimate outcome of this space. So we're very excited to talk to you all today and have some conversations around this. So why don't I invite some of our panelists up, Amy, Justin, and as I said, we're going to go a little off. Gabby, so wonderfully decided to join us as one of my panelists. Go ahead, sit. Gabby, here, you sit over there, Justin. There we go. Here, go ahead. You sit right there. Sit. So this is meant to be a background conversation for us. So we're gonna talk. This is a fireside chat with my panelists here. I would love to start. Gabby, maybe you could tell us, you work at First Ventures. Could you just give us a 2-second on you and First Ventures?
Yeah, 2 seconds is really short.
Really short.
I'm Gabby Munoz. I'm a managing director of First Ventures, which is the corporate venture arm of First, which is a large and diversified company based in New York. We kind of have two sides of the house, media, which everyone sort of knows First for, everything from magazines to cable networks. And then the other side of the house is a conglomeration of B2B information services and technology companies in different sectors like financial services as it's relevant for today. So we own Fitch, the third largest ratings agency in the world, and we also own a number of payments companies, which is sort of how we got here today. So First Ventures is focused on early stage investing off of First balance sheet. We're typically at the Series A stage and later, investing between 2 and 10 million on a first check, and then always following onto our money. So I got connected to Progress Partners probably about 2 months ago. Some wonderful folks here. Have met everyone from the banking side to the venture side, and have really enjoyed my conversations with them. So that is kind of an overview of me and First Ventures, and I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you very much, Justin.
So I was Chief Investment Officer at Banco International Investors before it was acquired by Cerity Partners in 2011. I had been with Banco for 16 years prior to that acquisition, and started as a financials and technology analyst, which kind of morphed into fintech over that period of time. Kind of in a wild ride where it was the Visa IPO, and from there to eBay, PayPal, and so on and so forth. But I manage a large cap growth portfolio, and so I focus on that for the majority of my time, but I also work on the venture side, and we do some early stage venture work up through kind of Series B. And so I've had some pleasure of being on the payment side and a lot of ancillary technologies.
Thank you, Justin. Amy, I pronounced it correctly, right? Of course.
Hi, I'm Amy Raven, and thank you so much for having me here tonight. It's great to be out with real people and
Yeah.
off the Zoom.
Is everyone real here? Okay, cool. Are we on Zoom? Can we get a
So
Zoom?
in my first professional life, I worked in the corporate world at places like American Express, Citi, AXA, and E-Trade. I guess two of my claims to fame in that portion of life were that I led the transformation of the Citi's U.S. credit card portfolio, which back in the day was a $5 billion P&L with about 100 million accounts. And that was very exciting to be sort of, the internet was taking off. In charge of that, I'm still trying to figure out how the hell I had that job. I was like, I just go in every day and make it up. I then became Citi's first global chief innovation officer, which was also an incredible job. We established one of the first corporate venturing units. Great job, but not a good role to have at the start of the financial crisis. I don't know, but it was sort of a four-letter word. So after a couple of other rotations in the corporate world, I left that life in 2014 and started a new life where really my goal is to use my expertise in marketing, digital transformation, and innovation as a real business discipline to drive results, to help everybody from founders to large enterprises derive commercial and customer value from their investments in technology. And I do that through many ways. I am an early stage investor with several funds. I published a book, which you all should buy. I have sample copies here tonight.
Just shucking them out there.
It's called The Changemaker's Playbook, How to Seek, Seed, and Scale Innovation in Any Company. It's an operator's guide to how to actually get something to happen versus an academic or consultant's perspective. I'm on the advisory board of several startups. I'm on the board of the AICPA. And what else do I do? And I'm working right now with large enterprises on customer experience strategy. So I'm doing lots of different things and really happy to become affiliated with Prospect Congress Partners last year. We're having a great time.
Yeah, I agree, and thank you very much. Thank you to all the panelists for being up here with me. I'll probably move over towards the seat in a second, but I thought it would be helpful to level set, again, on a couple different things. One is Volante, which is
Yes, it's Tampa.
yes, Sam.
Sorry, just quickly before we move on,
Please.
I want to add, just because of the present company, Amy mentioned how she's gotten more involved with the firm in the last year. I want to mention the fact that she's an executive in residence with
Thank you,
Progress
Sam.
Partners.
Yep.
We have a few other EIRs in the room as well, but I would say where we probably have the lowest representation is in the fintech sector. So I just pointed out to the room, as I'm involved in a lot of the inbound on our EIR program, that we would love to have more EIRs in the fintech sector. If you want to learn more about it, I won't go into it right now, but please feel free to follow up with me, my colleague Beth Lynn, who is not here tonight, and I do a lot of the work to bring in our EIRs, and happy to speak to any of you about it. And I can probably later on, if you want to talk to any of the EIRs in the room beyond Amy, I'm happy to point them out to you as I spin around the room.
Thank you, Sam, because that is definitely, I did not read that part of the script, and I'm so bad with these, I had this thing and I threw it over my shoulder, so, thank you, Sam. We have over 100 EIRs at Progress Partners, that actually, they contribute, they're tremendous. They contribute to our ability to execute deals at Progress Partners, both from the investing side and from the M&A and deal execution side. So, so thank you, Amy, for speaking with others. If you're interested, talk to Sam, please. So, what's really interesting to me, and again, all your food's going to be coming out, so please enjoy some food while we're chatting here. But cash was a big piece of this concept. Originally, when we started to think about this, we thought, well, how does cash play into, or the lack of, how are people going into more non-cash transactions? That was originally the sort of thought of this. And then I thought, does a push towards deglobalization instead of globalization impact the way you think about, if you own a business, does it work into the way you think about what to do next? If you're going to invest in a business, does it work into how you think about, should I invest in that, right? Because before it was sort of it was almost like you're going to go global next. That was just the thought that you had, right? And now we have to actually think about that. Is that something that we really believe this company or that company that we're going to invest in, is that possible for them? So I'll start with Gabby, and I'll ask Gabby the question, because you're an investor in fintech, broadly speaking, and you and I have talked about this, but just, as you think about deglobalization, right, that thought of actually erecting walls versus breaking them down across multiple countries, does that impact the way you may or may not invest? And it could very well be like, yeah, it does.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing I'll say is that globalization is indefinite. I think the question of whether it's, ebbing or flowing at this point in time, given what's going on in the macro environment, is one to consider. But I think at the end of the day, if we're looking at the long game, which we often do in venture, we're looking at time horizons of 5 to 10 years. We're not looking at exit timelines of days, weeks, months, or years. I think globalization is a very important part of how we think about investing in the future. I think in terms of cash, cash is, at the end of the day, we're talking digital money. Money is digital, whether people are walking up to ATM and they're extracting cash from ATM. At the end of the day, transactions are digital transactions. And I think the way that they happen, whether they're over legacy banking rails, whether they're over new blockchain rails, or over whatever we can't see coming down the pipe in the future, I think at the end of the day, globalization and money transfer digitally is sort of the way that the world is going to be. So I think that the near term sort of retraction in terms of globalization, particularly as it pertains to Russia or Ukraine, I think that doesn't sort of mitigate the fact that long term globalization is an inevitability.
Yeah, I think that what you said there about Russia and Ukraine, we can't ignore that. That's an event that's happening right now, right? And you have to consider it. You can't just pretend that it's going to go away tomorrow. And so, Justin, when you look to invest, or when you look at various opportunities across the globe, right? Do you take that into account? Do you think about there are macro conditions that this company may or may not be able to handle?
Well, when we think about it, we think about the vulnerabilities of each organization. So, do you have a diversified supply chain? Do you have localized support to your distribution channels? We think of it instead of reshoring is more along the lines of nearshoring. Is that you want to localize your production near your end consumer, and as you think about that, does a company have the wherewithal to deal with the payment rails and things like that to manage their supply chain? Are you adding new suppliers? It's a lot of sophistication. And so if you're a younger company that's just getting started that may not have invested adequately in some of that infrastructure, you may not be ready and able to navigate these challenges which have emerged, and they're significant, as you have to realign and add new infrastructure to not just deal with the supply chain challenges of getting that chip that is stuck in Taiwan or off the coast of Long Beach or wherever that might be, or your sofa if anybody else is waiting for one. You also have to deal with the payments, and if you're dealing with multiple currencies, you're dealing with new untrusted vendors. How do you deal with that? And I think a lot of people around this room will appreciate the fact that trust, that element of security and and efficiency is really important as well. You're not taking a check from some new vendor in Africa, right? You want to make sure you trust that transaction.
So Amy, you and I were talking earlier, but you've consulted with a lot of these large institutional players. This is all about change at the end of the day, right? It's a change. We've been used to doing them, we are changing into a different paradigm. What do you tell them as you approach them and to approach this as an opportunity, or is it a problem? What is it?
Well, like any situation, it could be an opportunity or a threat, depending on how you respond. But what I tell people consistently, and this goes back to the start of the pandemic, is first of all, I think obviously a lot of business model assumptions that all businesses are preempted, whether they were big financial institutions or fintechs or in any sector, basic business model assumptions are being challenged. And so you have to have two things I tell them. Number one, you've got to really listen to your customers and listen with your eyes and your ears. So understand how are their behaviors changing, how are their needs changing. Because at the end of the day, customers are the way that businesses get revenue. So before you make changes, you've got to really be in touch with your customers. And I've never met a CEO who didn't say we're customer-centric, but really, many businesses are not really customer-centric. They're not in the business of actively understanding how their customers are changing and adapting their business models to the way their customers want to go. So I think it's critical to be a step ahead of your customers. The other thing to do is, none of us have crystal balls. Or if you do, I'd like to do after this session, is rather than putting all of your mental juice into predicting what is the path going to be in the next 5 years, is understanding how good is my organization really at anticipating and adapting to change. Because I think the companies that win are going to be the ones that really have cultures, teams, and processes that really excel at being anticipatory and adapting. And I can just, if we had an hour, I'd tell you about my latest experience with my retail bank who I do business with, and there is a lot of upside in financial institutions to be customer focused, to not hide behind compliance and regulations, and to really be anticipatory and adapting to how their customers are living their lives and what their new financial requirements are.
Well, talking about regulation, cryptocurrencies, they are in the news these days too, right? Gabby, I don't know if you, but do you any of your portfolio companies, do you hear anyone talking about that? Just, yeah.
No one is talking about it.
Yeah.
Zero people are.
I'm just gonna say crypto blockchain, will you invest in it? That's all I
We
got.
are, as every diligent venture investor, we're looking at crypto and blockchain. I think the question is, what are the applications? What are near-term opportunities? What are long-term opportunities? I think it kind of divides into financial applications. So we're looking at payments. Like, is crypto specifically, so cryptocurrency, what are the applications and use cases for cryptocurrency? If not cryptocurrency, what are applications and use cases for using the blockchain to transfer payments? Those are two sort of fintech applications. I think the most mature utilization or most mature application of crypto and blockchain today is for cross-border payments. So the ability to transfer a fiat currency into a cryptocurrency and then back to another fiat currency makes a transaction happen quickly and relatively cheaply. Because right now, the correspondent banking system is absurd. So I think that like when you look at immediate current applications, I think that's sort of one of them. I think there's a whole other world with crypto and blockchain, which is the NFT ecosystem, which I won't even bore everyone with right now. But I think that's like an entirely different side of the coin. I think from a financial services solution, I think that banks and the current sort of traditional payment rails are going to be slow to adapt to this new world. And then, as I was talking with David earlier, He might be a great EIR, actually.
We're already recruiting.
Oh, really? Never mind. I'm behind the 8 ball. So, you know, we were talking earlier, and I think, you know, at the end of the day, anyway, I think I sort of stated my position, but I think there's a lot of different
I feel like NFTs, I just learned what it stood for, and now it's out of fashion. I was like, non-fungible tokens, I understand, and they're like, no, that's out now.
honestly, I would encourage everyone to just like open like a MetaMask wallet, like just go do it and like see what it's like and see what this whole world is. Put money into a wallet and just like see, and then go on, you know, OpenSea and just like try and transact. I mean, it's crazy. Like, you know, go on Discord and like attempt to join. It's just it's a fascinating new world, and I just think the only way to get smart on it is for us to be done.
Absolutely. Justin, what do you think is, you know, as you look across the landscape, really some of the larger companies you've looked at in terms of cryptos and other, actually I shouldn't even say crypto, right? It's just, it's non-cash based transaction. What do you look for as an opportunity versus you look at and you say, they don't, it's not there, right?
Well, so first, I completely agree with Gabby in that if you haven't tried to navigate this world, try it. It's
Good luck.
crazy. Yeah, exactly. We did it as kind of an experiment across some of our investment committee. We all tried to join a Discord and all that stuff. So it is an experience. If you haven't done it, try it. Getting back to that, you know, one of the things that I always think about when I'm thinking about any investment, public, private, doesn't matter, is that are you creating a technology that's in search of a problem or that actually solves a problem, right? And so to the point of cross-border, you look at the finance minister of Ukraine actually asking for donations in cryptocurrency, it solved the problem, right? Just in the most fundamental aspect is that they needed to transfer assets, how better to do that than a digital currency. It made sense, it solved the problem. And so are you attacking it from that aspect, or are you trying to create a technology that hopefully someday somebody will like, maybe it'll, you know, it'll work and be adopted. But so, you know, we like that focus from any of our investments, that they're actually trying to sit there and identify critical pain points of their customers, their end users, and trying to iterate in that movement forward to try and solve that problem. And if that's the case, they're generally going to be successful. And you have, we always focus on companies with strong cash flow. And you look at a company that's in the payment space, they tend to do pretty well on cash flow. And so if you're sitting there betting on a startup that's burning a ton of cash versus somebody who can buy that company that's got good technology and a lot of cash, it's an uphill climb. And so, you know, it's a balancing act. I think there's some special companies that are doing amazing things in the private space that are worth paying attention to because they understand that. They look at their customers, they understand the pain point, and they're executing very specifically on that.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it's, Amy, isn't that true, or maybe it's not, but I'll pose it to you that way, which is, in fintech, you do see a lot of companies that can, in fintech, that really make money. Like the good ones really do make money right away because they're solving a problem. And maybe it's cross-border, maybe it's, you know, a type of crypto to crypto. Sanjay just dumped an entire bottle of wine out there. I did. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. But I could have just let that go. But back to companies that make money, Sanjay, you want to know, Amy, across a lot of companies that you talk and consult with, do you see that in fintech more than other industries and other markets? Do you see a lot of companies still, you know, coming out of the gate and they're making money because they're solving that problem? They are actually doing things that B2B space.
Yeah, I mean, as an early stage investor, the first thing I look for, because I've been to
one of those things where the rise of digital transactions is because that's the way that we're going, right? We want to be able to make those transactions faster, cheaper, more efficiently.
Yeah,
I mean,
and as terrible as COVID has been,
Yeah.
and it's not over, so I don't wanna say it was, but as terrible as the pandemic has been, it did force very, very steep adoption of not just digital, but telemedicine. You look at healthcare, it was very, I mean, things that people said they would never do, now all of a sudden they're doing, because all of a sudden there was a problem that the technology solved. The other thing I want to go back to, something you said before about, a lot of the financial system is already digitized. Maybe not know, so I always tell my 93-year-old mom, just because she doesn't want to get electronic statements, her statements have all been digitized. They just happen to be on a server, and she has chosen to not have them sent to her. But they are all of our statements from everybody are already digitized. We're just choosing to not get them. So, it's happening whether we want to access the system or not.
So I remember the Y2K, for those of you, if you remember there was a big, am I dating myself? The big, I was in IT at the time at S&M Investments, a great fintech company, one of the early stage fintech companies. But one of the big things was transitioning from T+7, which is a settlement date that's just 7 days. 7 days after you transacted, it would settle to T+3. And that was like gonna be revolutionary, right? And here we are today, I can hold up my phone and I can give you $5, right? Right,
We're still on a T+2 settlement.
Yeah, still people
Oh my God,
It's unbelievable. It's, to your point, and I think that's, those pain points will be, and that's what I think crypto and various other innovations, they're just exposing the weaknesses that exist in the system that exist, whether it's the Fed not really anything for their systems and their policies, and they're forcing their needs. And that's what's great about technology. I think that's why we're all in this business and that we believe in.
And we're doing, I mean, like, Fed is doing Fed now, and the clearinghouse is doing real-time payments, and it's like this massive innovation, like, why don't we settle transactions at the moment that they occur? It's just really, I don't know, it is a huge innovation.
It's just amazing, that, it's like one of those things where you see, why isn't it done yet? But that just goes to show you across fintech, where we are. We are not at the end yet. There is still a lot of runway, right, in fintech, I think, is what we're seeing. So I'd like just a couple quick questions. Is there anyone in the crowd, anyone out here that would like to ask the panel a question? And after that, I think we're probably gonna move into dinner. So any quick questions from out there? Anyone? Derek, I know you, and I talked, oh, right, there we go.
So what does Donald think about the transformation of the blockchain of cryptocurrencies are no longer subject to customers or merchants having to do some loans that they transact. All that's happening is information is exchanging not on the
the nature of technological adoption. Once it becomes almost a background noise type of situation, that's adoption.
Justin,
right?
could you actually repeat the question? It was hard to hear back
Oh,
here.
sure. So, I'm not going to do it justice, so I apologize. But basically, when crypto is so embedded within a payment or a transaction that it basically is just part of the transaction that you don't even notice, does that remove all resistance and create adoption? And I think that's exactly it. I think that once it's not, you have to de-risk the new technology to a point where people have a comfort and people are willing to, I think that's starting to happen. And I think that, you know, whether it's stable coins or it's Bitcoin or it's Ethereum or whatever I'm never going to be right. I'm sure all the crypto that I own will end up being worthless. I probably picked wrong, but there's no doubt that the blockchain has an unbelievable technological advantage in certain applications. And once those applications are identified, and there's the software and the systems and solutions that are integrated within it, we'll adopt it and we'll forget that it exists. It's the way that you forget how a credit card works. You just hand it to a merchant and you get a bill, and it works. And that's the thing, it's the trust.
Yeah, and that's what I would say is, you know, how many, like, there's a lot of payment geeks in the room, but like, if you're not a payment geek, you go into a merchant store and you swipe your credit card, and how many people are thinking about what's happening on the back end? Like, I would argue like less than 1% of people are actually fascinated by this. So yeah, I just think that once it becomes so fundamental to the way transactions occur, like, people just don't even have a resistance. So the question for me is, how long is that going to take, right? Like, when will it happen, not if it's going to happen.
I think the hard part is almost not the technology. I think it's going to be the policies and the processes of the banking system and the regulations. So I think the technology is way ahead, and so it's going to be until they catch up, that user experience is not going to be transparent, right? And so it's going to be hard, right? It's going to be messy, and so until the non-technology related things catch up, it's going to be a bumpy experience, and I think that will continue to impede adoption. But you're right, we never think about what happens to, I mean, Max Stripe is really still amazing technology.
Would you buy me dinner if I can change your mind?
I'll buy you dinner. If I can, would you take it? That was for Chris right back there. Chris, go ahead.
As Sanjay, who spilled the water earlier on, was saying, when he was in Canada last week, I'm Canadian, he tried to do Venmo, he couldn't Venmo. And I go home, like, half my apps don't work. Pandora doesn't work with all my payment apps. And I was just curious, on the panel, or anyone in the room, it varies so much by country and region. And what countries do you guys think are the model for kind of current consumer payment systems, or something you like or outside this country that you think is good we should watch for?
I mean, you have to acknowledge El Salvador is going with Bitcoin as a tender. Yeah, a tender. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, one of the things I was looking at this actually the other day, and they have 2 times the amount of Bitcoin wallets that they do bank accounts. It's on every country. Which is kind of incredible. So if you have a situation, I mean, what happened in the Olympics with the digital wand was incredible. As you have a situation where
Justin, don't assume that people here know what that is.
Oh, sorry, absolutely, yeah. So the Chinese government created a digital currency that was pegged to their currency.
For that particular.
For the I actually don't know. I think it's I think it still persists. And it was unbelievable at the Olympics. You basically had to transact in their digital currency. And so when you have an underbanked country, it lends itself to that. And it's where, from what I've understood from companies that we followed, particularly large multinationals, it's the holy grail, right? To how do you bank Africa? you don't have great cell phones, you don't have, you're not gonna put a bunch of ATMs in 35 countries that all have different currencies. It's how do you find something that links it all together, and it's an amazing evolution in how you tie the global economy together. And so, I'd say those two are really interesting examples of ones that have done it. And it was, and I go back just having been following technology a long time, was when they came out with digital ID cards in certain areas, and they were trying to bank through national licenses. And this is just a much better iteration. And everyone's got a cell phone because everybody's connecting, and then you have the whole remittance avenue and things of that nature. And you just, it gets back to what we were talking about earlier. It's just about reliability, right? It's like, can you trust it? Is it going to be there? Is your loved one going to receive the money that you hope to send them?
Yeah.
Those are all
Gabby, what other countries you look at?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because in terms of early adoption, I think when you look at emerging markets, they're inevitably going to be leapfrogging. In the same way that, India leapfrogged in terms of mobile adoption. I mean, we were still on desktops, and then just by nature of the lack of infrastructure, the mobile adoption in India soared. So I think it's a similar thing with payments. When there's a need, there's a solution. And so, I'll just give an example. I was talking to a company recently that was trying to create a blockchain-based payments infrastructure, initially conceived on this cross-border use case. And what they found was that Pakistan doesn't have an ACH equivalent. That if you want to send money from one bank to another bank, or from one consumer in one bank that banks with one bank to another consumer that banks with a different bank, you literally have to send a check. There's no concept of a digital payment. And so this company was being engaged by what is effectively a clearinghouse in Pakistan to enable a digital payment infrastructure. And so I just think that we don't really appreciate how different and how underdeveloped some economies in the world are when it comes to payments. So that, to answer your question, I think there's so much diversity, and I think that there's an opportunity for emerging markets to leapfrog some of the more established markets.
Well, as they have with microfinance.
Right.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, there's probably lessons learned. You could look at the history of microfinance, which really developed, much more rapidly, and become much more substantial in emerging markets. There really was a need, and no infrastructure to serve the traditional banking infrastructure as we think about it. Sitting here in this wonderful restaurant, basically ignores huge populations around the world. So that is very fertile ground for these innovations to arise.
Yeah, and Gabby, Amy, I mean, you said it, Gabby, honestly, with the concept of cell phone, or phones, right? That we believe we have built this incredible infrastructure in the United States around, landlines, right? And that the rest of the world was like, we're just going to move to cell phones, right? We just skipped an entire need, right, of infrastructure build out. Is that the same thing that's going on here? We could keep going for a long time. I want to let everyone have some dinner, I know I see our food is at the table as well. Can you please give my panel a round of applause? Thank you very much. Enjoy your dinner, everyone. Have a great evening.